Hi, my name is Elizabeth Straszynski. I'm a classroom teacher at the University of Toronto Schools. The resource I developed was for the grade 11 botany unit, and it's basically the kids experimenting with PGRs, or plant growth regulators. After some introductory activities about what different plant growth regulators there are out there, they will pick one, design an experiment, and execute the experiment. So they actually will grow the plants, start seedlings. Sometimes they're actually collecting plants that they've got from a horticultural supplier, and then they treat those plants with the chemicals that we've got in the lab. We usually have a certain stock solution that we create for them, and we let them know about what stock solutions are available so that when they're creating the treatments for these experiments, they can sort of mix and match exactly what concentrations they want. They have to decide on the species that's available, although we do have some that are pretty standard plants and seeds that we might have. But if they want to go off the menu of what we have available, they will have to supply some of those themselves. Usually we do the experiment in the spring. I like saving the botany unit for the end of the year when things are starting to come up. And it means there's also a lot of plants that are available in horticultural supplies. It's always easy to get the plant hormones. Those are pretty accessible based on different suppliers. Some of the standard chemical supply places have it. I'm running out of steam here. Something else, let's see. Part of the reason I like doing this experiment is that the kids have decided themselves. The students are the ones that have done a little bit of research. Maybe they read something somewhere that sort of tweaked their interest. They might have their own plant species or problem or plant that they like to eat, or the plant that mom has in the house, or that they like growing in the garden, that type of thing. Or sometimes it's something completely different that they just happened to see at the horticulture center because it had pretty flowers, or something as trivial as that. In any case, it's them that decides the organism. It's them that decides within a certain range of the different plant growth regulators that they can use. But we've come up with a lot of kind of cool experiments. Some of them work, some of them don't, but at least they get the idea that sometimes scientists have to experiment on the edge of what's understood, and experiments don't always work out the exact way that you're expecting. Sometimes it's because the species is different, sometimes it's because of the time of year, sometimes it's because maybe they've chosen to do a species that isn't as affected by a particular regulator, and they might have background research that says the species works well with this hormone, but if they use a different hormone or a different species, suddenly it comes out to be a little bit different, which is part of what makes it so interesting. The challenges for them too, what type of application that they can make with this. They need to think about that beforehand when they're generating their hypothesis. So it's not just about a prediction and what they expect will happen, why it would happen, but it's also about what good might this be? Why would you want to treat this particular plant with this particular hormone? We want them to think about that sort of application level consideration when they're deciding on their experiment. Otherwise, sometimes there's not as much reason to do that experiment. Sometimes the purpose can be very applied because they want to produce fruit or vegetables faster. Sometimes it's just because they want to better understand the physiology of the plant, sort of in a more pure research type application. We have used it in class a couple of times now. It works out really well. I think we've tweaked the data tables a couple of times, or some of the handouts we've tweaked a few times just to make it easier for the kids to understand. And I'm sure other users are going to have to tweak the data tables in a slightly different way depending on how you've decided to teach kids how to do graphing or table design or whatever other skills are required to do the activity. But all in all, it worked really well for us. The kids learned a lot, and because everybody was doing a slightly different experiment, it was a bit challenging in terms of some of the things that the kids needed. They might have needed a different plant, or they might have needed dark, or they might have needed dark and cold, or cold and light, these different combinations. We do as best we can to supply that to them, and so far so good. There certainly gives them something to talk about in the error discussion of their experiment. But we've had really good success with it, and we are very much looking forward to using it again this year.